Hello everyone. So, well, thanks for coming. This is, I think, it's an honor for us to have you all here. I know it's raining over there, and I think some of your driver already told you that hati-hati, ibu, bapak, nanti banjir, right? So we hope that we will not have the flood. But my name is Henry Satriago. I'm the CEO for GE in Indonesia. And again, thanks for providing your time to have a discussion with us tonight. It's going to be a very informal discussion. And I think all of us aware that we are now living in the uncertainty. And, you know, from the if we see from the last 15 years what was happening in the world, from the 9/11 until the economic crisis in 2008, from the tsunami till the Facebook and selfie, also the last couple months that we are experiencing below $50 per barrel, it is clear that we are living in a very uncertainty world. And that's why, you know, last year GE just launched our new beliefs, which is kind of like replacing the old GE values. And one of the beliefs is keep delivering in the uncertainty environment. So when my boss coming and he said that he will come, you know, every team in Indonesia said that, hey, you know, we don't have a great year last year. So, you know, I said that it's okay. He can come, I still can sleep like a baby. You know, wake up every hour and start crying. So, uncertainty is our team, and I think it's we have a meeting with the government today, and it is clear that, you know, with whatever situation that we are facing in Indonesia, this is still a country where we have, in the last 10 years, 5% economic growth. And this is a country where we still have 250 million people. So this is not a future market, because the problem with future market is everything come in the future. So we have to make Indonesia as the now market, and that's why we have a privilege to have Mr. Lorenzo Simonelli, GE CEO and President and CEO of Oil and Gas, coming here and then show our continuous commitment to the country and also to the customers, partners. And we also have a privilege to have Mr. Craig Stewart, the new chairman of IPA, a friend of mine from Salamander Energy Indonesia. And we also, you know, thanks to have Fachad from Ministry of KESDM. You know, jokingly I said to Pak Sudirman, KESDM is Ministry Energy and Sumber Daya Manusia, Energy and Mineral Resources. So it's going to be a discussion. We will have, you know, 3 panelists. Lorenzo will talk about the challenge that we have in the oil and gas industry from a global perspective. Craig will talk about, you know, the challenge that we are facing as the oil and gas companies in the country, and we will have a perspective from the government as well. So with that, I'd like to call our moderator today, Arya Vita Purnamasari. Vita, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Henry, for the introduction. I would like to invite our distinguished panelists this evening. The first one, I would like to invite Mr. Lorenzo Simonelli, President and CEO of GE Oil and Gas. Before joining GE Oil and Gas, Lorenzo was a president and CEO of GE Transportation, a global transportation leader in the rail, mining, marine, and energy storage industries. Mr. Simonelli started his career in GE when he joined GE Financial Management Program in 1994, where he worked on assignments in GE International, GE Shared Services, GE Oil and Gas, and Consolidated Financial Insurance. Mr. Simonelli has also served as CFO Americas for GE Consumer and Industrial, as well as General Manager Product Management for GE Appliances, Lighting, Electrical Distribution, and Motors. Originally from Florence, Italy, Mr. Simonelli is a business and economics graduate from Cardiff University in South Wales. And I would like to invite our second panelist, Mr. Craig Stewart. It's quite a long list, so I'll try to summarize it. Mr. Stewart is a country CEO of Salamander Energy and also chairman of Indonesia Petroleum Association. Previously, Mr. Stewart served as the president and CEO of Vico Indonesia, member of the board of directors of PT Badak LNG, and member of board of directors of IPA. Mr. Stewart holds an MBA from University of California, Los Angeles, and also Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from the University of Calgary. And our third panelist this evening, I would like to call to the stage Mr. Fachad Mahfud. Please give a round of applause for Mr. Fachad Mahfud. Mr. Fachad is Deputy Head of Performance of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources of Indonesia. Previously, Mr. Fachad served as the Director of UKP 4, and he holds a PhD in Chemical Engineering from the University of Groningen and Master of Engineering in Chemical Engineering also from the University of Groningen and also from ITB. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this evening. As Pahandri mentioned, we would like to start this evening discussion with a perspective from the global perspective of the challenges and opportunities that resulted from the recent development with the declining oil prices, the global oil prices.
So in case people didn't notice in the audience, yes, in the last 2 months, oil has probably dropped 50%. So I think as of today, Brent actually for the first time went actually below $50, and WTI for the last week has been below $50. So what's happening in the world and why is this occurring? You know, I think there's a number of individuals that would like to speculate and will claim that they foreshadowed and foretold this. I'm not here to tell you what the price of oil is going to be in the future, and I'm not here to try and explain to you why the price of oil is what it is today. It's a fact that we have to live with, and at the end of the day it becomes an aspect of oversupply and too little demand, and that's what's happening at the moment. There is more supply than demand, and so the price is coming down, and that will correct itself. And like has happened in the past, it will happen again. I think for anybody that's been in the oil and gas industry, as many of you in this room, you know that we go through cycles, and we've got to prepare for those cycles. And this cycle is no different than those that have happened before. But I think there are some lessons that we've got to continue to learn, and also some macro themes that we've got to continue to work on. So let's just maybe break those down. But to start off with, I do want to take an opportunity to thank you all. You know, you taking time out of your day to join us means a lot to us, and it's a strong relationship that we have with you. And Indonesia is very important to GE, so thank you very much for joining us on this evening, and also thank you to the other panelists for spending time with us and giving what will be also the Indonesian local version and also the government view of what's happening. So I think Indonesia plays its part in the global economy and is an important aspect of what we have in store also from a GE perspective. So back to the oil and gas macro perspective, you know, the $50 that we see today, oversupply, too little demand. What's going to happen over the course of the next 12 to 18 months? You will steadily see demand increasing, and as that occurs, you will start to see the price gradually go up. Now, population in the world continues to increase. That is a theme that is not going away. There is also another aspect that isn't going away, which is the need and demand for energy. There are more and more gadgets, and everybody has a huge desire for the consumption of energy. One of the key resources that enables that energy is going to be oil and gas, and oil and gas will surpass coal over the course of the next 5 years as being the main resource for energy. So as you think about the resources, one of the things that hasn't occurred in the past few years is dramatic large finds. For everything you read in the papers, the actual huge increase in, production and reserves hasn't occurred. So the technology required and also the difficulty in extraction continues to be more and more something that we have to focus on. And that's where companies and partnerships are so important. So when you look at a GE, what do we focus on with our partners, which are the big international oil companies and the big national oil companies? We focus on the capital efficiency of projects, and we focus on the technology advancements. So we see 3 key themes that are really happening from an industry perspective as we go forward. And the first is, we believe that deep water and subsea is going to be an aspect of continued growth. The resources are there, and it's going to be something that we need to go and uncover, and that's going to require subsea processing. It's going to require much more technology because you have harsher to reach areas, and the terrain and the environment is a lot more difficult. Here in Indonesia, you look at some of the big opportunities. It's no longer just a land-based, but it is very much the aspect of deep water and being able to go 3,000 meters, being able to take the depths of 20,000 psi and being able to have blowout preventers. So a big focus is, how do we have the technology and how do we ensure that that technology is in place for subsea and deep water to continue to grow. And we think those projects over the long term will continue to outpace the industry at 5 to 6%. The second theme that will occur is unconventional shales, as you've seen in North America, will become more prevalent in other parts of the world, but they'll require different technologies, and also there'll be different elements of fracturing that take place. So with the unconventional shale come huge questions of, how do you manage all of the water? How do you manage the CO2? What do you do with the aspects of the potential water that's not there? So we're working on new technologies of re-injection. We're working on new solutions to enhance the actual well recovery rates of existing wells, but then also of uncovering the new unconventionals. And we see that as being an opportunity also here in Indonesia, but as you look at other areas of the world, unconventional is going to be a new theme that continues and expands. The third area that we see as being important is LNG growth. And we think that LNG, and we are long as a company in natural gas. We are long, and we believe that natural gas and LNG is going to be a big provider of fuel for the future, and one of the big aspects of efficient fuel as well. And so LNG is going to continue to outpace, but with it is going to be new technologies that are required. You've seen floating LNG. We think that floating LNG is going to be something for the future, and also utilized on a much more common basis across the world. So we've been investing heavily on projects such as Prelude with Shell and others, so as to make floating LNG a commonality. These 3 macro themes are investments that we're making on an annual basis, and it's $1 billion of investments. That's because we believe in the industry. So when you look at it from a short-term perspective, yes, today we're at $50. And that may last for some time until, again, demand picks up. But rest assured, demand will pick up. And with that, also, the price will come back, and there is a natural evolution of point where, again, people will say an $80 to $100 oil is not an uncommon number. And the areas that continue to grow, we believe, are going to be on the subsea, on the unconventional, and then on the LNG side. Most of all, though, we believe in strong partnerships. And the strong partnerships that we believe in are in this room. And that's why, you know, even though today we're at $50, we're continuing to invest, and we're actually not stopping the investments in the new products, the investments in the new projects, and also in the partnerships that we have with the major players. And so now's the time where we think partnerships and friendships are more important than ever. So that's why I go back to the beginning of saying thank you for coming out tonight, because, you know, there's a lot of people that would say, you know, at $50, why come to an event right now? They'll be back again. Well, now's actually when we need each other more than ever, because we need to focus on the capital efficiency of what we have taking place today, so that we can ensure that there is the long-term nature of the industry, which is definitely there. So I come here tonight with the aspect of not a prediction on telling you what the price of oil will be tomorrow, because I don't think I would get it right, but with a foreshadowing that the long-term nature and the macro nature of the industry is positive, and also that the themes are definitely focused on deep water, unconventional, and LNG from a standpoint of GE. And that's where we're placing the big bets. And Indonesia, for us, is key to that, with its growing population, its growing demand in energy, and also its resource pool that it has available. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Craig to give us the Indonesian view.
Go ahead, thank you.
I think I'll stand up as well. Before I get into Indonesia, let me just comment a little bit from an operator's perspective on what's happening globally with oil prices. And I share your long-term view. Okay. Now, for those of you that have been in this industry for as long as I have, and there's a number of you out there that have, we've been through, this is our fourth precipitous fall in the price of oil. 1986, 1998, 2008, and now. 98 and 2008 didn't last long. They were blips. 1986, 15 years. It's a long time. So we're a little afraid right now, because the fundamentals are lining up a certain way with supply and demand. So, you know, there's a bit of concern among all of us, but we're waiting. We're hoping. We're hoping this is a bit of a nightmare that we're in that's going to go away. But you know, what's ironic is, you know, the driver for this price drop is actually a lot of success in the industry. And I actually wasn't aware how successful the U.S. has been, North America has been, in unconventional until I just looked at the data. And if you looked at the data a year ago, you would be out of date, significantly out of date, because things have changed that rapidly. There is 4 million barrels a day coming out of unconventional for shale oil in the U.S. That 6 years ago was 0. 4 million barrels a day in 6 years, and there is 33 BCF per day coming out of shale gas. That didn't exist 8 years ago. That's 4 times Indonesia's gas production, 5 times oil production, all created in 6 to 8 years. So if you can get shale working, as a point, it is phenomenal. Because in the background of that oil, of that U.S. production, is massive decline in the conventional, but it's being completely masked by the shale. So that's what we need to get working in Indonesia, because the opportunity is there. Now, you asked me earlier what I think of the new government. There's a new government in place. And, you know, there's a lot of optimism for the new government. And I'm a member of a business roundtable group, as a number of people here are, called James Castle Group. And we hear points of view from that group. And we've had some very optimistic assessments of the new government's performance just in a few months. There seems to be a real desire to make bold decisions and to improve the business environment. And what was reported actually was that the head of KESDM, who's the Indonesian chamber here, said he had never seen such a pro-business government in 40 years, which is a very positive thing to say. And in our session this week, this is our business roundtable, what a lot of people said is we've been through a number of years of business unfriendly policy. And I think in the oil and gas industry, you'd have a hard time saying we didn't go through the same thing. So, you know, we're optimistic that that's going to change. And in meeting with the new minister, which we did several months ago, certainly he said the right things. Also the head of SKK Migas. And there is a recognition from both of those new leaders that we as an industry have been held back by bureaucracy, held back by slow decision making, maybe vested interests behind that, and their job was to change that. And so there's new leadership in place in the agencies, and you know, we're kind of, it's early days yet, so we're waiting for that. We're waiting for that. So we're hopeful, we're optimistic, but it takes time for a new government to get into place and change things. So, in fact, Pao, as you were saying, you're at work at it right now, trying to fix things. So we're optimistic. There's a lot of issues out there that we, the industry, and through IPA and also individual companies, have been communicating over the last number of years. The story is the same. We feel that bureaucracy needs to be streamlined, that we are controlled at a micromanagement level. We feel that is not the right philosophy for running the business. We think that's actually slowing oil and gas production growth down. So both the bureaucracy and the decision making needs to be streamlined and accelerated. And actually that's exactly the same thing the minister told us. And the head of SKK Migas told us. Same thing. So we're on the same page. In terms of decision making, you know, there's some big projects out there and there's a lot of complex decisions that need to be made to line those projects up and get them moving around financing, around gas allocation, around tendering. You know, there's so many things that we as operators depend on decision of the government because of the relationship that we as an industry have here with the government and the relationship of us with the production sharing contract. We are highly, highly influenced by the government just because of the nature of the industry here. So decisions, timely decisions about important things. PSC extensions, critical for some of the big new greenfield projects that have never been commercialized. And they can't be without PSC extensions. And of existing production, 30% of the existing production, the PSCs expire 4 years from now. 8 years, 60%. So uncertainty around extensions can actually hurt the continuation of production. So decisions about those are looming and need to be made soon to carry on production efficiently. Let me talk about exploration. Indonesia has some of the toughest production sharing contracts in the world, with the highest government take. That fits a certain kind of hydrocarbon province, and it did in the early days of Indonesia, when the low-hanging fruit was there and the big fields were discovered. If we look at what's happened over the last 15 years in Indonesia, there have been very few new discoveries of any significant size. There's just been a couple, and not that big. So the exploration track record has not been that positive. However, and also we've made some big efforts too. We invested a lot in coal bed methane. We've invested a lot in deep water exploration. We haven't been successful. The price of oil has been high. That has actually masked that. It's masked the effect that we have very tough contracts without the same potential as we used to. I think the industry's view is those contracts need to be loosened up and terms improved to match the potential of the hydrocarbon basin today. We're not in Saudi Arabia. And with $50 oil or $40 oil, and hopefully we're not going to be there that long. You know, but there's going to be a shakeout here, and unless Saudi Arabia blinks, the high-cost developers are going to have to be pushed out. That's the game that's going on. We know that. And so we may end up with an equilibrium price of $70. And contracts have to be attractive at whatever that price ends up being. And so that's something, if I was a government, I'd be looking at how am I going to attract investment? Because we're in a very mature hydrocarbon province and production is dropping. And the only way to turn that around is to get these big development projects that have been sitting there for a long time and to explore more. So we've got to get both those moving. Okay, so that's some opening comments. Pass it on to you.
Thank you, Stewart. I think I'm supposed to be talking about challenge here, but I think what the challenge, especially on the upstream oil and gas in Indonesia, has been mentioned very well by Stewart. So, and so that I would like to use this opportunity as well, not to see the challenge that I'm going to present here as really a challenge, but it is really an opportunity for all of us to synergy so that we can really tackle that challenge, especially the national challenge that we are facing. Pak Handri told me during the last weekend, I think, he told me that Pak Fachad, your session is about talking about the challenge itself. So, and then what are the main focus right now of the government of Indonesia, especially in the energy sectors? I would like to use as well this opportunity to show you in the numbers over here. I think to recall back again in the last campaign, these are probably some numbers that you already aware about, that what will become the focus of the Indonesian government, at least the two candidates during the last campaign. And indeed, I think this is becoming the focus of the current government. Not too much on the upstream oil and gas, but I think this hit the macroeconomic of Indonesian government right now. You know that the fuel subsidies has already amounting to 240 plus trillion rupiah, or 24 billion. And in total, if all the subsidy has been summed up, we are actually exceeding, you know, the number of budget that is required to develop all kind of infrastructures, some altogether, port, road, and etc. You combine it, it's still lower than this fuel subsidy. So this is the number one challenge that the government are really have to, you know, to tackle in the early stages. All that number, I think you are already familiar. I don't want to put it one by one. And the last one, for example, though we are having a 10,000 megawatt project of FTP1 and FTP2, the fact is that, in summary, from Aceh to Papua, the deficit has been really significant. It's a 35% reserve margins, below reserve margins. So we really need to focus in the next 5 years on how to find a solution for this power deficit. The government will later on, I will later on show you the 35 gigawatt project that in the next 5 years will be rolled out by the government. But then the problem is right now how that we can really ensure the delivery of this 35,000, because this is really huge project combining combined effort of PLN, IPP, and probably we will need other type of, you know, breakthrough in order to ensure that this power sector will be delivered. I especially, you know, highlighted the power here because I know I'm talking about, I'm invited here to speak in front of the GE, which is very much, you know, very much into power. So having said that, the government, the Ministry of Energy, Pak Sudirman, in the leadership meeting, they have said that this is going to be the, let's say, the tagline of the ministry in the next 5 years. He would like to have a fair, reliable, and sustainable energy as an engine for growth. Normally, when we talk about the growth in Indonesia, whenever there is an investment would like to happen, they're always complaining about the availability of energy, either a gas supply for a utility or the availability of a power. So that is going to be the main problem that we're going to face, and we will need, as a ministry, we will need to tackle that. And therefore, how in the next 5 years we're going to change this landscape of energy to become the engine for growth. And for that, I think I like to say that I'm in agreement with Stewart that a lot of the reform that need to be taken within the Ministry of Energy has to do with the decision-making process, with the transparency issue within the ministry. And I think it's not, I have to say that it's not maybe that there is a vested interest. There is a vested interest, so we have to combat that. Again, also, the ministry itself wanted to grow the Indonesian capability and technology, and I think that's the really important that I am speaking here on behalf of my organization, so that you all can see this as an opportunity in the mid of, you know, the oil, let's say, oil price crisis. And again, the minister itself is really aware the importance of economically sound-based pricing for any kind of sectors. And I think that's the reason why the issue of the subsidies is the main concern that he taken in the first month of his, you know, of his duty in the office. With this, we intended to create 1 to 2 million jobs and the total investment of 24 billion US in the next 5 years. So I hope you see this opportunity with a lot of excitement. I don't want to you know, to drill down the whole, let's say, the whole estimated investment here, but you can see here what will be the focus of the government on the upstream oil and gas and refining, midstream gas infrastructure, market and distribution, power, geothermal. So we have already a plan set up for the next 5 years. But I think there will be a lot more coming on top of what we have planned here. Yeah. With regard to the subsidy, we will focus on developing the or revamping the existing refinery, which is inherited for the Dutch colonial. And since then, we haven't really revamped our refinery, and that's the reason why we are losing 10 trillion every year. 10 trillion every year, or 1 billion every year. And that's the way we try to make an efficiency within the oil and gas, especially in the downstream sector. Other than that, we are also planning to, invest or to ensure the Java pipeline gas, which was already in the plan since I don't know when. But then this is really the time to really deliver the gas infrastructures. Other than that, we are also planning to push forward the mini LNG plant for making the efficiency of gas delivery to the remote area where there are an electricity running on diesel. So these are, to name it a few, what are the plans for the next 5 years. But at the end of the day, somebody has to do it, and there is no other organizations will do it unless the ministry itself. But the problem, I agree with you, Stewart, that we are really facing. I mean, previously I was in UK before, and now I'm joining the PMU, Prime Minister Performance Management Unit in the Ministry of Energy. I really see the traffic of traffic of application from probably all of you. But then I really see how the decision making being made. Yeah. So the first thing that the ministers wanted to have is to have the PMU to help him basically do a bigger reform in the ministry. This is not to have a redundancy of organizations, but basically is to put a lot of new innovations, new innovation regulations, new innovation in public services and project delivery, so that all the staff that is existing in the Ministry of Energy can really focus in delivering the project, and while we are trying to find innovations in regulations, services and delivery. So that is the first thing. And as you can see over there, Pak Wawan, the graduate from GE, now leading the PMU of 20 people, combining from many directorate generals. So this is already in place in the first 1 month of Pak Sudirman's duty. The main task that Pak Sudirman always stated during his meeting in any kind of event, he always stated that we need to improve the public trust of the ministries, which has been lost probably in the last 2 or 3 years. So these are the steps that basically that the ministries have already executed in terms of the governance issues, in terms of how to tackle the power crisis and the oil and gas supply crisis that we are facing. So you probably know that coordination is very expensive in the government, yeah, even within the ministry itself, within the sector of energy. So the first thing that Pak Sudirman did during his first 3 months, basically last December, is trying to break the silo and coordinations between the directorate generals, between the directorates, between the state-owned enterprise, basically, to have some kind of an event which is very normal and down-to-earth event, so that we are actually united or bonded together, being a human one to another, not seeing them based on the title, and that is what the first things that they are doing. This is Pak Sudirman itself leading the event without wearing a shoes over there. And this is the charter that the oil and gas leaders had made during that event. So this is actually the environment that is actually currently happening within the ministries. We are busy right now trying to solve the issue of coordinations, and I think Pausi is there as well. Later on you can ask Pausi instead of asking me about this. So just to verify whether I'm telling the truth or not, yeah, Pausi. Okay, so the idea is actually to form a bonding and therefore breaking out the silos within the organizations. But then the second point, of course, if we could make some kind of a new decisions out of that forum, that will become a bonus. But the first thing first is actually to break up the silos. Here are the issues of how the step for delivering a gas to end user in the gas allocations issue, where lately you probably heard about the issue of Fuad Amin being, taken by the KPK. These are going through this. He's actually going through this step. So that is the challenge basically that we are facing with regard to the bureaucracy, internal bureaucracy within the ministry. Yeah. Now, how do we see the sector itself? This is the issue we are facing in the oil productions and the gas productions, and indeed we have been discussing and busy on clarifying the future of expiring contract, and we have made a resolutions for the fourth near-end PSC contract, and we will come with another resolution for the next probably 16 or 15 PSC contract, yeah, together with SKK Migas. The other thing is that we have already launched the transformations within the SKK Migas as well as in the Directorate General Oil and Gas. So I hope that this is also bringing a good news and good opportunity for all of you, that we are really working out from within, yeah, because this is basically the main issues that we are facing in the in the last 5 or 10 years. The issue with the downstream sectors, if you can see here, the Nelson index of our existing refinery is very, very poor compared to others IOCs. So our plan is actually to improve this into 8.5, where we in the end can help Pertamina becoming more efficient in their downstream business, as well as the Indonesian downstream business. And that is then we hopefully can reduce the issues of 1 billion refining losses that we are currently facing. The Pertamina, under the facilitation of the government, has already signed the MOU for refinery, a development master plan, which will revamp the whole refinery that is currently producing. But also, there will be a new project of a government, a grassroots refinery, which costs around 160 trillion rupiah to add up additional 300,000 barrels per day. This is on the downstream sectors, and this is on the gas sectors. We already know that our future oil and gas resource may come from or will come from the eastern part of Indonesia, while the market will remain in the western part of Indonesia. And there is no issue that we are going to continue the development of gas infrastructures, probably the floating type of infrastructures or in the eastern part of Indonesia, in order to connect the whole regions with the gas infrastructures, and on the western part with the pipeline. And other thing is that we have already decided on the improving the monetizations of the gas flare that is being done right now. I probably can share with you there is already some discussions on making this gas flare segregated or treated differently than the normal gas, so that it can be utilized in a more efficient way, economic way. That is on the gas infrastructures. Other than the hard infrastructures, we also think about the soft infrastructures that we think is necessary for the Indonesian oil and gas sectors. We wanted to have to build the world-class oil and gas hub to benefit the strategic locations of Indonesia. We want to attract the world-class company so that we really can benefit from their know-how in order to improve our exploration and production. We wanted to have, develop a new, develop capability in a new technology, such as enhanced oil recovery, CBM, and geothermal. We just finished our geothermal law, and therefore we are going to ensure within the next 1 year all the technical regulations will be in place for the geothermal. We want to also grow the local talent through a technology transfer, so that we are no longer to only becoming a customer but becoming a partner, so that at the same time we can go in synergy to develop the country oil and gas sectors, but at the same time the investor will also benefit from having the business activity within the Indonesia. So this is basically to identify again what are the priority that has already in the our menu book of investment that we as a PMU will monitor one by one, although it is actually not really under the Ministry of SDM budget, but this is under in combination of private as well as the state-owned enterprise. But for sure the SDM, the Ministry of Energy, will lead in the initiative in the area of regulation of permitting, pricing, investment, and contracting. I wanted to end my presentation with this slide, and thank you very much. I will pass it to Mita.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your insights. Now I would like to invite questions from the audience this evening.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. So thank you very much for the interesting point of views. My question is more for he who comes from the other side of the world, to Lorenzo. So you're saying that yes, oil price goes down, it will go up, the price will go up because the demand will come with the growth of population, and hopefully also the other economies will be growing. But for now, looking at the fact that 5% growth is only in Asia and only in a few countries in Indonesia, including Indonesia, in fact. So the question is, when the price goes up and the trend of growth like in Indonesia continues, which means that we'll be needing more energy, wouldn't it be and I see that you have already started in the island of Batam, in fact, wouldn't it be a possibility to have Indonesia as the hub for the growth of the deep water, which you mentioned, also for the unconventionals and LNG as well for Asia? Thank you.
So, or alternatively, you could say just make Indonesia the headquarters of GE Oil and Gas for the region. But I think, so maybe just to, if you heard the question and the price of oil festival. So I've spent a couple of weeks speaking to a lot of different people about what's going to happen to the price of oil and when it's going to happen. I'll tell you the most logical and rational explanation that I've heard, first of all, of when prices will start to increase. So if you look at all the facts and the figures, production will peak of oil in the second quarter of 2015. And that is when North America and the unconventional shale will actually be at its peak. And as was mentioned, Greg, it is true. It is truly phenomenal what North America has achieved in a very short time. They will actually be producing 9.8 million barrels of oil a day by the end of the second quarter. Now, what will happen at the end of the second quarter is that production will start to decline. Number one, you've got decline rates, but then you've also got the aspect of financial pressures and the debt burden that many of the producers and the small-scale producers, which have taken out significant loans from the equity markets, will start to actually go out of business. Today, there is approximately an excess supply of about 1 million to 1.4 million barrels a day. So it's really not that much. We're talking about a very little amount of oversupply. And so in the second quarter to fourth quarter, that oversupply will adjust. The likelihood is OPEC will also start to moderate as well, and you will start to slowly see price go up. So the rebound of price will start to gradually drift upwards over the course of the back half of 15, and the average expectation from the majority of the analysts is that oil will balance out at an average of between $65 and $70 for 2015, and then in 2016 actually verge back up to an $85. So that's what's expected to be from a price perspective. All of that could change because, as you know, geopolitics, who knows. Now on to the aspect of localization and making deep water a center for oil and gas. Batam for us is a center of excellence. We have invested $15 million in the expansion of Batam. We've hired, and we do see Indonesia as being for us a center of excellence for deep water in Southeast Asia. And we think that there is a huge capability to be able to take not only the deep water, but then also on the unconventional side and the onshore side, expertise from Indonesia to other places in the region. So we continue to look at Indonesia to be a resource pool. You have 230 million people in Indonesia. You are by far the largest pool of also academic and also oil intelligent and oil and gas intelligent from a capability perspective in the region. So we look at it as being a huge opportunity for us to develop further strengths and further partnerships. So yes, and you can look to localization being a key theme and Batam being only the beginning as we continue going forward. But it does go in partnership. So for us to be able to do this, we need some assistance. We need some assistance from the government because we need the projects that have been sponsored to actually be approved and to be syndicated and to move ahead because there needs to be some confidence from the foreign investors to continue the investments going forward to enable us to be able to have the localization as well. So I think it's a cycle that really feeds off itself. So, but the answer is we anticipate continuing to grow and localize within the region. So, and look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you. I have a question.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Other questions?
Thank you. My name is Taufik Ahmad from ConocoPhillips, and I also serve as the chairman of the IPA LNG and Gas Committee. I think my question is to Fachad. We really appreciate the serious efforts that the Energy Ministry is taking since the Minister took office. For the upstream players, I think two of the initiatives that you described on your presentation was on this the gas committee, as well as the other initiative where you gather all the government officials and state-owned enterprise. You call it the Energy Leaders Forum or the Oil and Gas Leaders Forum. That Pak Sudirman was there. While we understand that most of these initiatives are currently participated by the government officials, my question would be, is it possible in the following programs or events like that, the business players like the upstream players are also invited as either as a permanent members or as an ad hoc members or as a resource, so that maybe we can hear directly on the background of any policies that we'll be taking, so that we can help socialize the policy, or maybe we can also have some input to the government, so that whatever policies or changes to the policy that will be taken have you also taken into account the feedback from the industry. So appreciate your comment on that one, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Taufik. I try to take note of your request, immediately telling it to Pak Widiawan tonight after this, immediately send it to Pak Sudirman, I think. Pak Sudirman itself has a plan like this. He wanted to have a coordinative event, which is a very relaxed and casual, on oil and gas, on mineral and coal, which is already done last week. So all the high-rank government officials from Directorate General Mineral and Coal gather together with the STOE. And today, and the reason why I'm replacing Pak Widiawan is actually because he have to attend the power sector leader meeting together with the ministers, together with the Directorate General of Electricity, together with the state-owned enterprise in electricity sector. And he have tell us to do the same for a similar kind of event, but with a more bigger audience, with the players, he say. I don't know when it's going to take place, but for sure I'm going to remind for your sake. Yeah, I think he really appreciate whenever there is some kind of positive and constructive communications between the players and the government, because we know that the government is not the only players that make all of that can be delivered. There should be state-owned enterprise, there should be private sectors like all of you. And I think sooner or later that will take place, that kind of event. But for sure, for that particular in oil and gas, I don't know whether the design of that kind of event will be divided into oil and gas, mineral and coal, and the electricity. But my understanding is that he has a plan for that. It's just a matter of time probably that we will have that part. And I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Pak Farhad. Maybe there's another question from the floor.
Probably, it will be good as well if we can hear the financing strategy from that. For that, we know some of the savings coming from the subsidy that you taken out, but if it is financing, what kind of a financing that the government expect?
Thank you, Pak. That's a very valid question, and I think that is the problem right now that we are facing. the government right now have a lot of fiscal space to finance many kind of infrastructure. But then the question is, which one is the priority? President Joko Widodo has already put a focus on using that to spending. Some are for the energy infrastructure, for the food security, for the development of the civil works, and for the I forgot the other one, but the state budget more or less is going to be used in the oil and gas, especially on the building a new refinery. But that will then we will see how does it go. So the state budget is one of the way to finance the whole project. The other is actually through state-owned enterprise financing. There is already some kind of a discussion right now that the government will relax the way, you know, the dividend share is going to be spent. Now, this is becoming one of the solutions of financing the whole project. The others, of course, the government are trying to introduce some kind of a PPP financing, public-private partnership, which actually has been evolving in many ways in the last 5 years through a 5 showcase project, which is not successful. But then we have a lot of lessons learned just at the last of the 5 years in 2014, where the new PPP center has been installed through the introduction of the new government regulations. So this is going to be the understanding of the government in the PPP financing has been evolving so much, as such that the private financing through PPP is going to be one of the way. The other kind of financings that is actually going on right now has been in discussions with the Bappenas and the Ministry of Finance. It's actually through Sharia financing, through Sukuk and etc. Creative financing. And I still remember the last discussions just the after Pak Jokowi has been elected, that he is really in a serious thinking of really you know, unlocking the issue of financing through any kind of channel, so that we can, you know, we can run in the higher speed to, you know, to overcome the issues of you know, lagging the infrastructure facility. We don't see the next 5 years as a gloomy day for infrastructure project, any kind of infrastructure. You see that as a need, because otherwise we as a country will be lagging behind in terms of electricity. As you see, 35,000 megawatt. We are still thinking on how to deliver this. We are thinking even to develop a new you know, institutions to even to enforce the PLN and the IPP so that it is able to deliver. That is one of the way. The infrastructure of refinery, if we cannot do anything about that, then we will still going to import, and we are facing the problem with our current account deficit. So I think the next 5 years, I see that as a many you know, interesting years for the private sectors and many channels for financing. And I don't know whether that's happening in the other part of the world, but for sure in Indonesia that plan will be executed.
Thank you, Pak Farhad. Maybe last question from the audience. Yeah, Kak Hermin.
Thank you. I will address my question to Pak Stewart. And thank you for an honest presentation, and congratulations for a new post as IPA in a very challenging time when the price of the oil is slimming down to $50. My question is, consider the present condition with the presentation tonight. I would like to have your opinion about what major action should be taken, at least in the short term, to keep the industry going in the country, in Indonesia. And I pay attention on you mentioned about slow decision making from the government side and heavy bureaucracy, of course. That's understandable. So what do you think the support the industry needs the support from the government side to keep the industry growing, at least in the very challenging part. Thank you, sir. And for Pak Lorenzo, thank you that we have, at least for the journalists here tonight, we got the good news that you just invest, I mean GE, $50 million in Batams, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks for the question. Actually, if you look at Fachad's slide, you may have wondered whether we had got together beforehand, because some of the things that I mentioned are actually on his slide, and I was very pleased to see that. And you haven't got everything on the list, but you've got a couple of the key ones, you know, about bureaucracy, about the PSC extensions, and about improving the cooperation contracts for exploration. Those are three really big issues, and I'm very pleased to see that we're being listened to, you know, and that those have gone into the to-do list of the new government. That's very, very encouraging for all of us here today. You know, and I just want to say that I'm not sure what the reputation of IPA has been based on the last 5 to 10 years, because we've been complaining a lot over the last 5 or 10 years. And after a while, we kind of begin to think, are we just an old woman that is just complaining and complaining and never saying anything positive? Well, if we get a little bit of positive feedback to our suggestions, then, you know, it makes us feel good. So I'm happy to see that you're engaged in those. So that's very positive. They're on the right track. Okay. Now, in terms of this year, and you've described the year, well, I hope you're right. That would be a reasonably nice soft landing for all of us. We can live with that. And that's kind of what we're hoping for. And if you talk to the service industry like GE or Halliburton or Schlumberger, they're the ones that have their finger on the pulse as to how the industry is responding to these low oil prices, because it happens quick. And if you talk to them, what they'll tell you is there's 200 rigs shut down in North America already, and there'll be another 300 in the next couple of months. It's happening fast. In Indonesia, though, nothing's happened. Nothing's happened yet. And why is that? Well, part of the reason is the nature of our business here. We're a very mature hydrocarbon province, and a lot of our rigs are drilling infill wells. And we're probably able to make money at these mid prices. But it goes, you know, some not. So part of it's that. Part of it's also is we're kind of assuming what you're saying is going to happen. And we're going to end up with a number of months of this, and then we're going to start to gradually come out of it. So you don't want to disrupt your operations for something that's going to happen for 6 months or 8 months, because it takes too much work to put that machine back in place. It takes years to get that machine running. So you may live with low prices for 6 months, 8 months. It is really hard to get these drilling machines working. And Indonesia's got some really good, you know, drilling factories that drive our production. You know, on the positive side as well, in a low price environment, Indonesia is largely becoming a gas business. It's hard to see a reduction in decline of oil production. We'll have a little jump up here once the Exxon project comes on, but we're in a steady decline. And that's not going to change unless we find something different. That's why you tend to look at unconventionals. Can we find an unconventional success story here in oil like the US has found? Because it's hard to see it on the oil side. On the gas side, we continue to find gas here. The challenge is getting it to market. And again, focus of the government, infrastructure, really key. Because we find gas, fairly small pieces here and there, and we need the infrastructure to commercialize it. And it may mean mini LNG, it may mean CNG, but there's diesel that's being burnt all over the place that can be displaced with gas. And the government's been willing, and PLN's been willing, to give fixed gas prices, which actually today don't look too bad. And they can sustain our business. You get $8 gas, and it's economic, and you're making a decent return. You may not get the upside when prices go back to $100 a barrel. You may not get $15 gas like we do for export, but we get that steady $8 and we can make money, and we're providing electricity to the industry of Indonesia, to the consumers, and it's a win-win for everybody. So we've got that basis in Indonesia that $8 gas price hasn't dropped to half. It is still there today, right? For everybody who has fixed gas contracts, they're not bad, and so we can sustain our business on those kind of contracts. So there's a real positive side of the business on the gas side. Okay, I hope that answers.
Thank you, Craig. Now that concludes our discussion for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you for your time and insights. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue your discussion, your networking. The night's still young, traffic's still bad. So please stay and enjoy your night. Thank you.